You guys are really cruel. This is why I'm wearing It's a Beautiful Day to Leave Me Alone, because what the fuck? I thought it would be a really fun idea to do a bookish this or that with everybody. I asked for people to send me in questions, things that they wanted to know, and you guys send me in the questions that are unanswerable. Like, how am I supposed to pick these? And then I said that, and MB10001, or however you pronounce that string of numbers, tells me, well, why do a bookish this or that if you don't struggle with the questions? Okay? That doesn't give you the right. But on an actual note, so many more people responded to that than I expected. And I'm so grateful for every single one of you who took the time to try and destroy my day today. And I'm so excited to get into it. So first off, thank you. And second of all, let's get to it. Staying alive. So I'm gonna start off with the questions that I got asked on my Instagram. Number 1, physical books or digital books? This is complicated. For my heart and soul and my well-being, as a reader, I personally would pick physical books because I love to hold my books. They make me feel like my babies. I'm just like, wow. It makes it so real. It's like every single time that I read a book, I need it physical, unless it's a book that I audiobooked. However, for reading purposes, because I care about my physical books so much, I prefer to read on my Kindle. Because before, every time I would go out, I would take my book in her little book sleeve, take her on a little journey, make sure she was fine, and then on top of that, she'd go out, no dust jacket, and, okay, when I would go to the pool, I would use like my little like pool cover up to cover this part of the book so I wouldn't touch it with my hands. I'm a little bit psycho, so because of that, this is now home to my Kindle. I feel like I read a lot faster on my Kindle, and I very much enjoy like the fact that I could just like lay on my side, like if I'm reading like a little fan fiction. I think that's what makes it best. I'm just here like if I'm having phone time, but I'm on my Kindle. That has done me so much better, and I have read significantly more since I got my Kindle, but for my heart and soul, I always need a physical book. And I do try and like alternate when I'm reading a book on my Kindle and then switching back to the book and stuff like that. But for ease of travel and ease of I'm not that careful, I prefer my Kindle to keep me safe, because you will never catch me dead with a physical book at the beach, because I will get sand on it, and if it gets wet, I'm gonna blow up. Both depends on the need. I'm gonna go through my regular, like the normal questions first, and then I'll travel back to do the more specific book questions. One of my book besties, who also has a YouTube channel, I'm gonna put it right here if you want to see her, because she is absolutely phenomenal in every way, shape, and form, said elemental magic or multiple different magics like Fourth Wing. I really like this question. I don't know why. It scratches something in my brain. Elemental magic. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the growing up watching The Last Airbender, but like something about just like the water, the fire, the earth, the wind. Give it to me. Give it to me. I don't know why. Aelin Galathynius with her fire, I would pick it 1,000,000,000 times over. Violet Sorrengail with her lightning and everything. Elemental, it is so much cooler. I also feel like I'm somebody who just very much likes fire. Like I'm, what do you call those? A pyromaniac. Then we have another one of my book besties, Mercedes. Kindle or physical books? I already answered that, but she also asked other more specific questions that I'll get back to it later. I love you. Okay, anyways, next. Reading at night or in the day? It depends. For me personally, I feel like I read much better during the day. I've had my better reading times during the day. When I started reading recently, the summer that I was like off of school, I would sit by the pool, tanning, reading my book, and then I would go back home and I was like hot from the pool, and then I would shower, and then I would lay down and I would just keep reading. And being able to read for hours on end during the day feels so freeing, because it feels like I have no responsibilities but this book, and it is just unmatched. However, due to the pacing of adult life, I can't do that anymore, really. Unless I'm vlogging for a video or something, I tend to only have my fun time reading at night. I hate it, because I'm somebody who, the moment I hit the bed and I have my Kindle in hand, it's like a placebo effect. Is that the word? It's like a melatonin for some reason. I have my book in bed and I'm just like, and it's, I mean, mid-time, and then I just go to bed. I really struggle with reading at night because I forget half of what I read unless I'm super into the book, and then I end up staying way past my bedtime. But usually, because I tend to read fantasy, I can only stay up late reading like contemporary, because fantasy, since it involves so much brain power half the time, I fall asleep. The moment that we're like away from intensity, I fall asleep. Personally, if I had the choice, I would be a daytime reader, whatever, but life hates me. Coffee or tea? I like this one because it's not bookish, but it's so girl. Coffee. I have an addiction. I actually used to have a tea addiction. That was when I was on my like healthy kick, where I would just be drinking like green tea all the time. I'd be alternating teas based off of whatever. I used to be like a tea connoisseur. I really just prefer the taste of coffee, so I just have coffee too much. I will have like past 3 shots of espresso type of coffee, not for waking me up. It tastes yummy. It tastes yummy. And then if I could go get a Costco coffee midday, I'm gonna go get a Costco coffee midday, because that is the best coffee I've ever had. I love coffee. It comes with the culture. It comes with the I'm Hispanic, so for me, it's a must. In every meal, we're gonna have coffee. Short or long books? Long books. I am somebody that really struggles with putting something down. I prefer to be really pushing through 600, 700 page books than getting to a book and it's like 300 pages and it's over. I can't process that. Like, what do you mean it's just done? Like, I'm gonna go cry now. Even like when I watch TV shows, or when I used to watch TV shows, 8 seasons. Keep me sat there for 8 seasons and keep me so like enthralled in everything that I just rewatch the 8 seasons once I finish them. So 100% I prefer longer books, even if I'm suffering through them. Dark or sweet romance? Dark. I can't handle a sweet romance. I can handle it as a side plot. It will never be my number one. This is probably referring to like regular dark romance, so dark. But also even in like regular like books, like the relationship that I tend to like gravitate towards are the ones that are kind of questionable red flags. He punched her in the face. My Throne of Glass girlies, you know what I'm talking about. I liked him a little feisty. I like the enemies to lovers to be very enemy. And then when they're lovers, they're still like bantery and it's still like, rah. But as for like regular like dark romance genre versus sweet romance genre, dark romance. Don't come for me. I like to read about things that I can't experience in real life for many reasons. Dark romance, don't experience that in real life. Not what I'm looking for at all. So I read about it, because if you stand outside my window, I'm calling the police. Versus for me, sweet romance, I can find it. He holds my hand. I just like my things with a little bit more like pizzazz and flair. Then again, I don't think I've ever read a sweet romance I've been into, so if anybody has sweet romance recommendations, I'll give it a try. I dabble. Okay, and then the last one for Instagram that isn't book related: spice or no spice? I'm gonna go with spice 100%, yes sir. I know I do tend to recommend a lot of books that don't have spice or have very minimal spice, closed door spice. Spice for me all the time. If I had to pick between spice or no spice. If I had to pick between books that had like too much spice or just a little bit of spice, I'd probably prefer just a little bit of spice, because it keeps me like aching for like something. It doesn't just give it to me. It depends on the mood actually. Spice, I am just a girl. I'll get back to the Instagram ones afterwards, but I'm gonna go through my like regular non-book specific this or that for YouTube. Hardcover or paperback? I've been waiting for this one. Okay. We got the bad boys. This was my first Acotar edition. Dude, this is my first Acotar edition. And then we got this one. It's relevant to the book, and I'll tell you why. So I originally used to only buy hardcover books when I started reading. All of my Acotar books are hardcover. All my Throne of Glass copies are hardcover. All of my books are hardcover. Because when I was younger, if you gave me a paperback book, I wasn't a messy kid. I'm not a messy person. But you know, like in school, you shove folders in your bag and stuff like that, and then my paperbacks would get absolutely destroyed, so I never got them. I even have the selection series up there somewhere that I read when I was like 10, and she's still in very good condition considering I used to take her to school every single day. So I always leaned towards hardback for necessities, and then as time went on, I realized, wow, like reading paperbacks, now where I'm at, even though for this one specifically, I'm just gonna tell you, I prefer the hardback versions. These colors blind me. So personally, I prefer the hardback version. So I usually shop paperback or hardback just based off of the look. If they're different covers like these two, I pick the one that I like more. If it's a new series that I'm reading like as it rolls out, the likelihood of me waiting for the paperback is slim to none. Like if the series has just started and they're still going on, I'm just gonna be buying the hardback from the get-go, because I'm not waiting until the paperback gets released. The hardback edition is important to me because of the look of it, that I'm gonna buy the hardback. So if there's like a reversible dust jacket, like my special edition, like Powerless editions, that they're like the inside colored foiled covers that I display them through, those I will be buying hardback. My Divine Rivals up there, that they're like, it's really simple, but it has like the typewriters with like Dear Iris and Dear Roman on it, or is it Dear Kit? Your Roman. Those are special to me, even though it's like a very simple, but if the hardcover calls my attention, I'll buy it. But if it's just same book, same cover in the hardcover as the paperback version, then I will mostly pick paperback. Also, I'm gonna start annotating soon, and I feel like I'd prefer to annotate on a paperback. Actually, I take that back. I think I prefer to annotate on a hardcover. Which one should I annotate on, please? Because I have two. I'm gonna annotate Throne of Glass, and I have paperback and hardback, and I don't know which one to... Yeah, okay. Focus, focus. If you guys haven't noticed by this point, I don't know when to shut the fuck up. Fantasy or romance? Fantasy. Any day, any day. I've actually only enjoyed one contemporary romance. I've barely read any, which is surprising because I was actually talking to my best friend and we were talking about the fact that like when I was younger and I used to read fan fictions, I used to read like pure romance, contemporary romance fan fictions, like completely. Like give me like a mafia romance, high school romance. But when I grew up and I just got back into reading, the only thing that I'm enjoying are fantasy books. I love the fantasy aspects. I've always just been like a fantasy girl growing up. Like I loved Harry Potter growing up, Game of Thrones, all of that majestic magical stuff. I love world building, yes sir. However, I have recently read Boys of Tommen because it's my best friend's favorite series, and I will say 5-star series. It is so good. I haven't read much contemporary romance outside of that, but still, even though I'm very much enjoying Boys of Tommen, I'm aching to go back to like my fantasy books. Probably get into more regular romance books later, but fantasy books. You guys didn't ask for this much of an explanation. It was this or that, and Natalie said this or yap. Love triangle or stalker? Listen, I love me a good stalker romance. I do. I think it's very... Okay. I'm actually gonna go love triangle, which is weird, but I like the options. Even though it's really cliche and stalker gives me a little bit more of a thrill, I love the chase when it's a love triangle, and I love that there's always pain when there's a love triangle. That sounds really bad, but I really do like sad relationships. So I like knowing that somebody's not gonna end up happy at the end of it. Maybe they'll find somebody else. I always hope that they find somebody else because then I feel depressed. But for the thrill of reading and enjoying sad books and love triangles having a lot of like tugging and like turmoil and like, I don't know, love triangle. I'll always read a good love triangle. Book with a happily ever after or sad ending. Happily ever after, which perfectly contradicts my need for sad books. I want the entire journey to be sad. I want to be sobbing the entire journey, but you better like throw me a bone at the end of it. Like it better, like if you end this bad, I wouldn't mind a book with a sad ending, really. Because again, I do really like sad books, but I feel like the emptiness that I would feel if like they don't end up happy, too much for me to bear. So please leave them alone. They've been through enough. Give me a happily ever after. They deserve it. Barnes and Nobles or Books a Million? Barnes and Nobles, because I don't go into Books a Million ever. I've bought from Books a Million once to get my Throne of Glass Books a Million special edition, the pink one. That's it. There's so many Barnes and Nobles here. I'm always there. It's like every time that I see Barnes and Nobles, I'm stopping and going. I don't really have a lot of Books a Million near me. I don't know. I've never been to one. Do you break spines of your books? So I guess broken spines versus not broken spines. No, I do not. I don't. These spines are perfectly intact. I actually I haven't read this book. That's why the spines are perfectly intact, because I read it hardcover. I don't though. If I was to read paperback, like I'd be really careful with it. I don't have a problem with people who break spines. My mom is a book spine breaker, and it doesn't really hurt me. I just personally don't, because I have like mental issues and I need my books to be always like perfection. Like I had gotten my first editions. One of them was like the tiny teeniest bit bent that you can't even see it, and I spent like 10 minutes like smoothing it out so like it would go away. So yeah, like I have tendencies that require me to have non-broken spines, unless I really don't care. No, I can't. Even if I don't care about the book, like, I can't break the spine. I can't do it. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, how dare you? No. But for me, for my mental health, I can't break the spine on the book. Ooh, I like this one. He falls first and she falls harder, or she falls first and he falls harder. He always falls harder. He should always fall harder. Respectfully, I'm telling you, in books and in real life. I also feel like I love when she's kind of like into him, and maybe he kind of has feelings, but he's not giving into them yet. So she's like, you know, I love a good book. But definitely he falls harder. That man better be crawling to that woman by the end of the book. Midway through the book. If he doesn't fall hard enough, I don't want him. Short chapters or long chapters? Short chapters, babes. I can't. This is one of those things that I'm like, when I'm reading at night, I'm somebody who, I can't go to bed if I don't finish a chapter. So when I'm like, my eyes are closing and I'm half asleep and I'm like this, and then the chapter just keeps going and going and going, and it takes me this much to finish the chapter, I'll stay up for it, but I'll hate you. That better be the best chapter I've ever read in my entire life, because why the hell would you do that? I'll probably read the same amount before bed. If they're shorter chapters, it feels better for me. Like, I'm just like, oh wow, another one. Oh wow, another one. This is so good. It's so stupid. It's so stupid because usually the first chapter will end and the next chapter continues where the other one ended. So might as well just keep it as one chapter. I can't. My brain needs to know I'm moving forward. I need to be on the next one. Love triangle or second chance romance? I'm gonna switch my answer from the last one, and I think I'm gonna go second chance because I love pain. I feel like second chance gives me more pain than love triangle, because like that breakup period in the middle, the angst and the miso, and then they get to each other. Second chance. Second chance. Ooh, you guys are kind of killing these questions. You guys really thought for me. Thank you. Okay. Do you prefer reading more for the plot, or do you prefer more moments between the characters? Plot v smut versus like plot v romance centric, I don't know, kissing. I will say that I often read like speeding up, getting to the character point, to like the spice or the makeout or the first kiss or whatever, like the more romantic moments. I'm always like rushing to reach those points, but I can't enjoy those points if I don't have a good plot. I love world building. I love like the slow burn until that point. So it's a lot of high fantasy, or it's a lot of like drama or fighting or this and that, just so like that moment feels even sweeter. I prefer those moments because they get me all giddy, but I can't get to those moments if I don't have a good plot. So plot, 100%. Read one really long book or a few shorter books. One really long book. I feel like that's relevant to like the question about like long or short books, but I prefer to get through one chunky, good book and get to stay with those characters than read like a ton of different stories, because like I can't move on. Keep going from story to story. That's actually what happened to me last year, like my reading goal. I read a lot more books than I thought I would, but it isn't really up to par with what a lot of people will read within a year in like the book community space, because half of the books that I read were like 1,000 pages and I was in heaven, like cloud 9 during it. And they also asked, would you rather have a book with a satisfying ending or one with an ending that leaves you thinking? I'm gonna go with ending that leaves you thinking because I don't know how to let things go. So for example, I want a satisfying end, but I want an ending that like is satisfying in some parts. Like I can't just have like an open-ended, complete open ending to a book, but like it's satisfying in main points, but it still leaves some like, will there be a second book or will they just continue living like off of the book space? You know, the characters keep going. Is that stupid? Like the characters' lives keep going even if I can't read about it. Like they're probably off doing whatever open-ended thing was left in the book. I don't think that makes any sense. Throne of Glass was a closed off ending. It was very, very satisfying, but I feel like there were little things that I'm just like, where are we now? I like to think because it gives me the thrill of what else is gonna happen, and then I don't have to let the characters go ever. Their story isn't done to me, but it still has to be slightly satisfying. Like don't just leave it like, has anybody this is so niche, but have you watched My Babysitter's a Vampire? It was open-ended because the show got canceled, but that ending with no more afterwards was torture. I think about that show. It's been like 10 years, and that's embarrassing, but I can't have an open ending like that. The world blew up, and then what? No. So satisfying to a degree, but if I had to pick like fully open-ended versus satisfying, I'd pick satisfying, but give me like a good middle. I'm gonna go into specifics now. So if you haven't read these books, congratulations, you get to know my answers anyways. A standalone Elorcan book or Manorian book. Those. Elorcan. I love Manon's relationship, like I was living for it, and I wish that they got a more closed off ending. I'm gonna go back to the other question and say I like a closed off ending, because yeah, I wish Manon got a more closed off ending. They deserve their happiness, but that's fine. I feel like it works very well for her character. Whatever. Lorcan is the love of my life. Their couple was one of the best couples in that book for me. It is one of the most underrated couples. Oh, day in, day out, Lorcan. I love them with like my whole soul. Oh. Acotar, Throne of Glass, Throne of Glass. Need I say more? I love Acotar. It was my first series that got me back into reading, and it has like my entire heart, but Throne of Glass has my soul. Like Throne of Glass is like one with me, Throne of Glass, but still love Acotar. Ooh, and Draco Malfoy or Rowan. I don't know. I'm gonna say Rowan because I actually haven't read any Draco Malfoy fan fictions in adulthood. I used to read a lot about Draco Malfoy when I was younger, so I couldn't tell you. I'm scared that when I read like Manacles and like the actual like modern Draco fan fictions, he's gonna beat Rowan, and that's gonna hurt me a lot. For now, I'm gonna say Rowan because he is the love of my life. That was a mean question. Manon or Lysandra? Lysandra. Okay. So Manon is my female crush. Like, I would marry that woman. I really would. I would kiss that woman. I love Manon so much, and she's so hot. But Lysandra has like a piece of my heart. Like, Lysandra is like, she is baby. Like, I could never let her go. Like, Manon could be like my one night stand, and it probably would be a one night stand because she doesn't like people. But Lysandra would be like my bestie for life. I like how nobody was asking me to date them. Empire of Storms or Tower of Dawn? Empire of Storms. Love Tower of Dawn's story, you know, half of it. I didn't like Nestrin's chapters at all. Sorry. Not for me. I was bored. I loved Gale's journey during that book a lot, and it has like a big part of my soul because I really do love his development. But Empire of Storms made me sob like a baby, and it didn't stop making me in pain. Read Assassin's Blade first or third. This would be like an extensive conversation. What I always say, third for me, third for people who read like me, which I'm not going to go into, but I tend to recommend it first for everybody because a lot of people don't read like me. We'll be rereading it first though, but I just don't think it would have hit for me first the way it did third. Don't hate on me for that one. Dorian or Rowan? Rowan. He's number 2 on my book boyfriend list. He is my husband. I love him. Rowan. Dorian is like right like there. Like he's like 4th or 5th, I think. So he's still really high up there for me. Aaron or Kai? Aaron. He's number 1 on my book boyfriend list. Now Warner is like my soulmate. I love Aaron Warner so much. Don't get me wrong. Kai is the sweetest I've read about, and he had a way with words that like made me melt. I love Kai, but like I said, I like my romances a little bit more with like a punch. And I feel like the enemies to lovers, there wasn't really enemies to lovers, but Warner's mean personality just scratches my brain more. I kind of like a mean man. In books, Throne of Glass or Powerless? Throne of Glass. Throne of Glass day in and day out. My girls who've read Powerless, when you read Throne of Glass, I know you're gonna know what I mean. Throne of Glass is the best series I've ever read, and any question that is comparing something to Throne of Glass is gonna win. Juliet's bird and her dream, or Warner's dog named Dog. Dog? Hello, it's a dog named Dog. Aaron or James? Warner. I'm starting to like James. I still have to get used to the idea that he's not 10 years old. So Warner, but probably even after I get used to James, it's gonna be Warner. Rhysand or Kai? You guys are gonna freaking hate me. Like, you guys are gonna hate me because I keep putting Kai down. I really do love Kai, but Rhysand, because he was my first love. He was the first book boyfriend that I ever had, and he needs to stay pretty high up on my list because he's Rhysand. Fourth one or Powerless? Powerless. This mainly has to do with writing style because I do prefer high fantasy adult books, but I liked her writing better. There are points where I'm reading Fourth Wing where the world's building and everything is just great to me. The plot is everything. Like, I'm really into the characters and stuff, but it's just the writing style that doesn't engage me the way that Powerless does. Rhysand or Xaden? Rhysand. Once more, he was my first love. And him and Xaden are very similar, but I fear I read Rhysand first. So, Rhysand. I'm not going to explain this one, but the people that know. The 13 or Gavriel? Gavriel. I can't really explain it, but like, Gavriel. Rhysand or Rowan? You see, there was people that did beat Rhysand for me, even though he was my first love, and that people was Rowan. I love Rowan. I really liked Rhysand's relationship a lot. I feel like I still hold him really high because he was the first book boyfriend that I had. But the relationship that Rowan had and like the book boyfriend that he is much more me. Aaron or Kenji? Warner, number 1 for me. I do love Kenji a lot, but for book boyfriend list wise, I tend to go towards guys that are much more like Warner and be besties with guys that are much more like Kenji, but IRL. Warner. But like, I tend to like, if Warner was standing in front of me, I'd pick Warner, but like real men why, I usually go towards Warner. Powerless or Shatter Me? This is a conversation, isn't it? I feel like I don't know. I don't know. See, those series are like the most like right here for me. Like they're like both at the same level because like writing style, Tahira Mafi writes like an absolute goddess. And then so does Lauren Roberts. But like Tahira Mafi, she's like super metaphorical with it, and she's so like, her writing is just so dreamy. Not just like what they say, but like how things are described and how feelings are described. I really love Shatter Me for that. I also love Warner a lot. She writes the best book men. She really does. I love her book men. So for that, Shatter Me, but like whole story wise, Powerless, and like the whole story plus the couple plus like as a whole, Powerless, but for like specific aspects, Shatter Me. The aspects that I like from Shatter Me beat the aspects that I like from Powerless, but like it's a whole series, like as a whole, everything like average Powerless, but even, I can't answer that. I can't. Cardan or Kai from Powerless. So Cardan from The Cruel Prince or Kai. I haven't read Cruel Prince. Cruel Prince was actually the second book that I bought after Acotar when I started my reading journey, and I haven't read it, and it's been 2 years. It's been on my shelf staring at me, but believe it or not, it is one of my most anticipated reads. I just haven't gotten around to it. This is gonna hurt me so bad, but from what I know, I haven't read it at all. I feel like Cardan is gonna be Kai because I like my men mean, and I think he's mean. He also has a tail, and that's really interesting. But I'll get back to that when I finally read Cruel Prince, because I'm really, really excited to finally get to it, and please God, let me get to it this year. Like I'm begging, like it's right, please. We're gonna end it on, I have to read Cruel Prince, it seems. That was hard. Can never pick things normal. I like, you know, if you know me, you know I like a lot of complexity in my characters, including, well, that was fun. Thank you so much for asking me really difficult questions that caused me to spiral into yapping, which is my favorite thing to do. I had so much fun answering these. Hopefully later in the future, I will be doing another kind of questions, but like actual questions, not just this or that, but like I thought this would be like a really fun thing to do before I release a reading vlog. Let me know if you hated any of my answers. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry to my Powerless girlies. You know how much I love Kai. I feel like I'm cheating on you guys. Please don't hate me. And as always, any suggestions, any opinions, anything at all, recommendations, let me know and I'll probably get to them eventually. Thank you for playing with me. Whoa. Thank you for the this or that questions. Goodbye.